Hey everybody, it's Heath Robinson with Topaz Labs, and I'm excited to be hosting and more excited to be welcoming back Joe Reardon. He's the one you're here to see to present with us again.
Afternoon, folks. Hopefully today we're going to show you some tips and tricks into how to create your own particular style in your image editing and your photography through the use of plugins and Topaz Studio. So we're going to start with this image of the surfer I took down in Cape Cod this past summer. So we'll start here with the basic here. I'm going to set a black point at the surfer's wetsuit. I'm going to add a little bit of clarity and a little bit of shadow reduction there. Next step, I'm going to go into the HSL and take a little bit of the blue cast out of the water and out of the sky. Just reduce it a little bit and brighten it up. I want those waves in the breakwaters to come in a little bit more white than they are blue. And the next step, we'll come in and do a dehaze, because it was a hazy morning, just to take a little bit out. Right about there. Always these are seasoned to taste. If you like the look, you stay with it. You can go a little further. If it's too much, you back off. There's no rules here. It's always experimentation, which works the best. And here I want to bring in a little bit of S-curve in my added tone curve, just to give this a little bit of contrast. And this is just preparation for work for what we're going to be doing next step with this. So here I'm going to create a mask, a temporary mask. So we're going to use the paintbrush. I'm going to change the radius down a little bit. I don't need it this big. And this mask is not going to be perfect by any stretch, but it's going to be close. And you'll see why at the next few steps. There we go. We just need to create something that resembles the outline of this fella on the surfboard. Some of these techniques I'm going to be showing you, we're going to mask with a real mask and we're going to mask with an image. In this particular case, we're going to do a little bit of both. Sometimes a mask, you just can't get what you need within a mask to mask out a certain area. So we use the image almost like a zone 5 or a midtones mask, a grayscale mask to mask out part of the image that we don't want to see. We'll change it with opacity, which is what we'll do here as well, and the use of this mask. So again, I'm just going close because you can see some of the area bleeding in. I don't care if I'm going a little bit overboard. It's just not needed to be perfect. All right, so we're good here, good there, and we've got a mask. And it kind of resembles the surfer. So at this point, I'm going to copy this mask, and I no longer need it for this step. So we're going to save this image here, because we're going to come back to this. That is the saved image, and we're going to take the copy image and make some changes to it, which is now the copy over here. We'll reset this. Slow computer today, but we're going to come into my favorites. I've already created a lot of presets, which I've done ahead of time. And this is kind of the point when I want to make here, that when you're creating a look for yourself, sometimes it's to your advantage to go in and actually make a preset, so that when you have other images that look very similar, you can go ahead and have the preset all made and you're halfway there already. So at this one, I'm going to create a image and drag and drop the original image that we just saved, which is back here. Drag it, drop it. I'm going to put it in the background. I'm going to put this mask on by copying it. I'll paste it back in. So now we've got the original image. Press done here, and we've got the adjusted image with the impression, and I'm going to create a look where the surfer is now, doesn't have the effect on it with the impression, but the beach and the shoreline sure does. But then I've changed the opacity down to about 60–65%, so a little bit bleed through. So we're getting not an over-the-top look of what I'm trying to achieve here, which is an impressionistic look, but a little bit of the reality of the surfer and the actual surf that I saw that morning. A little bit different look. And that's one way to mask out without using a mask. The original image acted as a mask in this case here, just by turning the opacity down. So we'll be all set with this one. Let's grab another one. We'll go into us for this one. So this was shot down at Eastern State Penitentiary. So we're going to make a lot of changes to this one to get the look that I want. And this is a look that I'm trying to establish for myself as a style or a look that I like going forward with a lot of my images that are interior, and they've got a lot of texture and a lot of structure to it. So if I create a preset for it, we can go off and use that preset over and over again if it's got a similar look. So this one here, we're going to go in and we're going to add a little bit of precision contrast. It seems to be this is what I like the most when I'm doing my interior work or architectural work, especially when there's a little bit of structure in there, a lot of structure. We'll put this on high. I like to go about a 2-to-1 ratio. So if I'm at 30, I'm at 15 over here roughly, and I'm always going to high. And if I need the midtones jacked up a little bit, I'm going to come over here, lighten up just a little bit, so I get some highlight looking in there and the midtones here. So next we're going to come into edges. Now edges, I use a lot of interior where there's a grungy look to it, and I want that interior strength to come up. So I'm highlighting all of this structure that's in the back and giving a little bit more emphasis to it. So just adding a little bit of edge strength here, and I might turn the suppress weak edges down just a little bit. This is a formula I seem to like a lot. And I'll show you the before and after, and you can see it's picking up a lot on that back wall and that door. So we've got a little bit of color cast in here, so we're going to get rid of it a little bit with the HSL. Does everybody use this for getting rid of color cast? Because it really does a nice job. You can select each one and see where the color cast is, and if it's too much, you can turn it down and also lighten or darken that particular color. So it really does isolate it and does a nice job. And we've got a nice lot of red in there and orange. We'll turn that saturation down just a hair. Maybe increase that brightness just a little bit. Last over here, we'll take a look at the red, and it was very strong in the red spectrum here. Bring up lightness just a hair. We're good. Now, my next is always going to be, especially when I'm interior, and I really like this look. It does a nice job. I'm into precision detail, and you'll find that I do this over and over again as far as which one gets this effect and which one doesn't. Typically never outside, but interior structure, if I do it before, and you can see the difference between before and after. Look at the difference. It just jumps out at you now for detail. And last but not least, we're going to put a vignette around this, because I feel that this is the center of the picture here, and I want your eye drawn right to it. These three structures are leading you out down here, so I want to bring you back into the center of the picture. Just by putting the vignette on there, we've dragged you back in. So we've got a little bit of highlight here, and you're not going out of the picture anymore with this. So that's what I like for interior work. It's a typical workflow for me, and it creates a particular look and a style that I've adopted and adapted to my workflow. Again, this is all through trial and error and experimentation until I found what I liked. And this is what I'm trying to show you today, that by coming up with your own particular style, it'll help you advance your photographic vision. So I'm going to come down to Mill Pond here and here. And this one I'm going to show in multiple different ways. So we'll go into the original picture and I'm going to make some adjustments and then save it. And then we're going to come out with two separate looks for this particular image from this original. So we'll start with the original and we'll come up and make some adjustments here to precision contrast. Again, my typical, now we've got a foggy day here, so I don't want to make it over the top too much, but I do want to increase the contrast on these boats, the white coming out and the yellow. We'll put this to high, and I'm going to bring the midtones up just a hair. We shot this on a foggy morning, but I really do want this to jump out at you. These three things here, the boat, the buoy, and the other boat.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
We've got a couple people saying you're going a bit too fast. Could you slow down just a little bit?
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So the next step here is a little bit of HSL. And we always find that when we're outside shooting, there is always a little bit of color cast, and we're going to see what we can do to get rid of it. And then I want to increase the yellow in this boat and maybe decrease the overall cast that's in this boat here as well. So we'll go through these, and you can see which one is the correct one. It highlights it and it puts a crosshatch on each one. So I'm going to turn that saturation up just a little bit. It says it was orange. Thank God for this because I am colorblind, so picking out the right colors is a challenge for me. But we go through this. We want to get the right one. There's a nice blue cast, and I want that down just a little bit. We'll turn the brightness up. It's probably got some purple and aqua in there a little bit. There's the aqua right there. We'll turn that down just a hair. Maybe turn the brightness up. So we'll come in with a little bit of S-curve. Because I want to increase the contrast. And it's just an S-curve, simple S-curve, and really not all that much. I tend to go with these two grid marks and make an S right about there, just a slight one. And you can see the difference. I'll do it before and after. That's before, now we're after. The fog is still there, but I've increased the contrast and the saturation on those two boats and the buoy in the background. So at this point, I'm going to save this. So I'll press apply, and you'll see the reason why I was saving this. So I'm going to actually rename this to original so I know which one's which. And we're going to go to the other one that we just saved and created. And I'm going to bring this, reset it. And I'm going to bring this into a plugin of all places. So we're going to bring this and bring it into Lens Effects. Since there was fog there, I want to emphasize the fog a lot more to give it a moody look. So we're going to go into my favorite is fog 1. It's just enough. I'm going to make some adjustments here for region size and bring it all the way down to the bottom, or just about. I'm going to back off on the amount, about 20-ish. It's enough fog for me. I'll press OK, and this will stay up on the screen when we finish and it goes back in from plugins. So we will add a image, and I'm going to go back to the original. Oops. And we will drag this. What happened to my one from the... There it is. Sorry, picked the wrong one. And I will add an image. And I'm going to bring in the one that we made the adjustments, bring it into the background. And I'm going to turn that opacity down because I want this to be very bright with the boats, but I still want that fog effect in there. So we've changed it from a very flat picture to a photograph that's got a little bit more contrast with the boats and not affecting the overall mood and the feel of the picture itself. So we're going to be okay with this one at this point. So we'll go on to another one here, and I'm going to bring in this one. This was another one that was shot down at Eastern State Penitentiary, and it was a section of doors. Now, I already previously had done this in Photoshop where I had to blend it because this was a 5-image stacking or focus stacking. So I blended them all together. I just like the composition and all of the grittiness and the peeling paint up here. It really spoke to me. So we're going to add a little bit of a technique here that I like, and we're going to use a few new things here with precision contrast and edges. We're going to use edges right off the top. And again, just a little, this is like perfume. You don't want to put too much on because it'll start to stink and start to look over the top garish. I mean, the trick on all of this is to make it look like it wasn't edited, always. So a little bit of precision contrast next. And you'll find a theme that I use going through all of my interior pictures is this precision contrast, which I really love. That's one of the best things that you folks have done. Again, a 2-to-1 ratio roughly. And I always put it on high. And if it needs a little bit of brightening, I will take up the midtones just a little bit. And we're going to do that here. Have I slowed down enough, or am I still going too fast? I think
I'm still trying to catch up on questions. A couple people were asking if you could still slow down just a little bit more because they said you're still going.
Yep, I sure can. I sure can. So the next step is we're going to go into AI Clear, which is, if you watch up here, you'll see a big difference in the photograph where the top of the door and the number 4 there. The mouse is not behaving. Come on. Come on. Oh, I love these technical problems when these happen. There we go. AI Clear.
We have quite a few people asking about when you're looking at an image like this, what's your what's the idea behind the look that you're trying to get? Like, what are you trying to create with this?
Drama. Always on my interior pictures, it's always a dramatic look that I'm looking for, and it's a style that I've developed over the years that it's kind of like my signature look on any of my images that are interior where there's a lot of grit, like these, drama. So you'll see me use a lot of contrast, highlight areas, and focus your eyes going to a central location within the image. And that can be done with vignetting or edges, enhancing the edges. So we're pretty good here. And if I show you the before and after, you can see it a lot up in here in the top of the picture. This is before. This is after using AI Clear, and I just went with medium. I can go high, and it's going to correct the image, and you'll see a little bit more of it. And I'll use this particular part of the program on a couple of images here, this before and after, and it gives you a little bit more of a grungy look, if you will. And we'll go out to 100%, and we'll move on to the next stage of this particular image. And we're going to go into, again, precision detail. I typically stay away from detail on all my exterior shots unless it's something that's on the ground, then I'll mask the sky out. But it's mostly used, in my case, for interiors. And we want this to be a subtle one. There we go. It's a look that I've settled on with using the precision detail in subtle, and it tends to work real well with the images that I create. And we're going to, next step, HSL, because there is some cast in here, just like the other image from Eastern State. And we'll go through where it is. We've got a little bit of a orange hue here. I'm going to turn the brightness up a little bit. Maybe turn that saturation down just a hair. I go through each one of these to see what's casting too much, and I'm going to turn that saturation down a little bit and then the color up. I want that door to jump out at me. Not so much there, not so much there. A bit in the background. Here, there's a lot in the red. Turn that down here and turn the brightness up just a little bit. And then I'm going to go into brightness contrast as the last step of this, and it's a little bit not to my liking the way it is now, especially in this spot here. Let's see if we can fix this a little bit. I just need a little bit of reduction, and I would say we're good as far as creating a nice image here. This one I don't think needs a vignette. If I'll put it on, we'll see what it looks like, but I really don't believe that it needs one. Take a look.
Hey Joe, we've also got a bunch of people asking about how you're showing the before and after so quickly. Can you explain that just a
Oh,
little bit?
all right. Yeah, it's basically hitting the space bar. You've got up here, you can do a preview, you can do the originals, or I can hit the space bar on the keypad, the keyboard, and it just shows me, if I press the keyboard down or the space bar down, it shows me the before. Let it go, it shows me the after. And it's a great tool for seeing what you've done and see what's needed. You know, I mean, you know that you've got side by side. You've got top and bottom to see what's going on. You have all different looks to see before and after. So if you wanted to see it live, you could do this. And this is the demarcation line from before and after. You can see a slight difference in contrast color and everything else on the right side. And this is the original side on the left. And if you just go to the full view here, I'm sorry, full view, you'll see it as you're editing. So I don't like that vignette on there. So we'll be done with this image and ready for another one.
If you click the right next to the canvas button, there's that rectangle. I know it's kind of hard to see here, but if you right there,
Right here, yeah, yep. I was getting to that. I was just trying to look through my notes of which image was next, and we're going to go for one that I really like here. Actually, one of my favorite images that I took out in the Cannon Beach out in the Oregon. So we've got a couple of little minor issues here. I'm going to straighten that out. Okay, and we'll press done. So it's level. Takes a second for it to work. So what I do in my editing workflow, I'll take a look at the image and I'll really decide what does it need and what tools do I need to use to get it to where I need it. So I have a little bit of blue here. I want this to be a little bit more white. I have some yellowish here, a reflection of the sun. I'm not so much here, so I'm going to take a little bit of an overlay and bring it down in here. And I just want to increase the contrast a little bit, increase the saturation up in here, and see if we can make this a really nice landscape image. So we'll start here. And this is typical of what I would do when I bring an image in and I'm looking at it. What does it need? And where are the errors? And where does it need refinement? And what tools do I have to bring out the best of this particular image or enhance it to be better? I'm not looking for any particular look, but I'm just looking for a much better, cleaner image that has a lot more impact. So here, I know we have some color tuning that I want to do, and I want to take that blue, because I know there's blue there, and I want to turn that saturation down, and I want to turn the brightness up a little bit so I can get some in the water. As you can see, I just did. If I'll put the space bar on, the water is no longer bluish. And I shot this with an ND filter, so you can see that it's very silky on the water. It tends to have a little bit of color cast when you use those ND filters. So try and take it out with that HSL. And we'll come back to the next step, which would be basic. And I don't have an order of how I do things. I just fix things, and then if something fixes it and causes another problem, I need to find the right tool to mitigate the first problem that I've put on there. While keeping the image intact here. So we'll go to basic and some minor choices here. I like the clarity in this one, and I like the shadow just a little bit. Not too much here. The exposure is pretty decent. So we'll go into precision contrast. You know, I said that that's always what I use in interiors. It's occasionally used on the exteriors as well. Just a minor tweak. It really does depend on the image. I'm not looking to add too much here. We bring up the midtones just a little bit to brighten it. There we go, a little too much, right about there. Right about there. And now I wanted to get this sky color down here into areas that I want to have a little bit of reflection, because it's a little bit after sunset here, as you can see. So I'm not quite getting the colors in there that I want, even though I'm getting them here. So we're going to go to color overlay. If I can find it, there it is. And it gives you a default color. So I'm going to double click on this, and it's going to come up with this color picker, and I'm going to pick the screen color, and I want this color. So now it's changed from the default color to the sun that I have here, and it's covered everything. So how do I get rid of everything except where I want it? Well, with a mask, of course. So where don't I want it? I want it in a lot of places, and you can see it's picked up here. If I click on this spot here, right where I wanted it, as you can see, white reveals and black conceals. I don't want it on those rocks. I want it in this water here. And the white mask, because I've used luminosity, selected a dark area. These brighter areas are coming in, and now I've got the skylight color reflecting off of this path of water of the ocean, right where I wanted it to, and not so much over here. If it was coming in a little too much here, I'd put another mask on there and paint this right out. This luminosity masking selection, it's coming exactly where I want it to be. And this has ended up with the look that I wanted for this particular layer. So let me show you the before. It's a little dull, not a bad photograph, but a little dull. And now we've added some contrast, and I've added some color, and it's got a nice reflection. I've taken some of that blue out of there. Sorry about that. Thought I had those turned off. So I'm happy with this particular picture. We'll start on another one. Are there any questions so far on these? And I hope I'm not moving too fast. I'm trying to slow down as much as I can. We'll go on to another image.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the mute button. One thing we had regarding that question was, or that last photo was, what was your exposure time to get the?
Oh, I'm going to say probably 30 to 40 seconds. It was after sun had set, and I had a 10, the big stopper on there. So typical, I'm at f11, so I get the sweet spot of the lens. So I'm going to guess it was probably around 30 to 40 seconds, just to get that silky look and not block up so much.
Awesome. And then we had a bunch of people just ask, how did you make such a quick mask with the color picker? I think you're using color masking. Can you show that again?
Right, that's easy. Let me go back to that image, and I'll do that over again. I'll just do it from the overlay. I'll add the overlay, and I'm going to double click on this. I'll click on it, and as you can see on the screen here, it says pick screen color. So if I click that, I can go to anywhere on the screen that I want, and it's going to change where I've selected to the new color. So this color right here is the color that I've selected up in the sky. So I press OK here. The entire image was overlaid with this particular color. It's a nice color, but I don't want it everywhere. I just want it in certain locations. So I'll come up to the mask and use luminosity. I'm not very good at painting or drawing, so I use the luminosity. It's a lot easier. So it initially creates a mask, but I want to pick where I want this to go. So I'm going to pick an area here. And it really is trial and error. So if I pick here, you're going to get a different look. If I pick here, you're going to get a different look, or here. So I played with this the other day when I was prepping for this, and I picked the right area that I liked to give me, as you can see, I'm clicking different areas here on the image, and it's giving me either more or less of the flow of the water through here being masked. And I really liked a lot coming through there. So I just needed to pick the right spot to give me more of it. Yep, even here, I like this one better. It's opening up more.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, so it's a nice way to give a flow or a color cast or an overlay of a color or any other thing that you want to put on there, then mask out what you wish to keep and which you wish to hide. As you know, always the black is what conceals and the white reveals. So even though this is not quite white like the sky is, it's giving me enough of an area here that some of that flow is coming through there as far as the color. It's a fun program, and so much you can do with Topaz. So this was maybe 100 yards from where I shot the other one, but maybe a different night. But I just got lucky with these horses, and I saw them coming, and I positioned myself to be in the right spot where I was going to get the haystack coming out of the water, and the sun, and the reflection of the horses going by. So we're going to do just a few things to this one, and sometimes it just doesn't need a lot to make it just what you want. So this one, again, I go with my typical S-curve and a little bit just to add some contrast and a little bit more definition of those horses right there. And we'll make some precision contrast. And ever so slightly, ever so slightly, as it has a lot of contrast. I don't want to add too much to it, but some areas are needed, affecting mostly the rocks here. A little bit in the low, mid-tone I'm going to bring just a little bit, and that's going to brighten it up because, you know, I thought about making a difference in this one where it wasn't giving me this overall glow of gold, but then it wouldn't look like it was shot there. I could, you know, take this color cast out, but the horses would be white and brown. But I think this lends itself a little bit more to the feeling of this particular scene here. One last change here. And just a little bit. So I'm going to take the saturation of the through here, just a hair down. This is an overall yellow. Turn that up just a little bit. Like I said earlier, the whole trick to all of this editing is to not look like it's been edited. So you don't want to take drastic efforts in this and take everything out. You just want to go very gentle, very subtle, and have it look like it's not been touched. And I'm real happy with this. Maybe turn that brightness up just a little bit, and I'll show you the before. It looked a little flat, and now it made it pop a little bit. Those horses pop right off the screen now at you, almost three-dimensional. So any questions before I move on to the next?
Not right now. No, I'm still trying to catch up.
Okay. Okay, no worries. We've got 10 or 11 here, so we're doing well for time. Oh, here. I like this place. I was just shooting there last week for an event for them. This is the Shaker Village in Canterbury, New Hampshire. And I'm doing a lot of volunteer work for them, so I get total access over there. So I'm really happy I'm able to get in and see all this old antique stuff and photograph it. So here, I just want to draw yourself to this section of the photograph. And we'll do that through some of the tools that we'll use. And at the last, we'll put a vignette around here because these are just supporting players over here. This is the action right here. So we want to highlight the main actors in this picture and have the supporting actors follow it. And you notice I've got odd numbers here. So it always works well for shooting either 1s, 3s, 5s, or 7s. And it kind of draws your eye in. You don't want even numbers if you can help it. So we'll start with my favorite here, which is precision contrast. And I'm trying really hard to emphasize this, what looks like a milk container. I don't think I need to bring this up a little bit, not too much. We're good here. I'll make this at high. And the next step is HSL. There's always a cast. You got to find it. That's the table. I don't want to touch that. I know from practice that milk carton is got some blue in it, so I'm going to turn that up. Not too much. See, it's blowing out there, right about there on the plus side. 6, 7, 8. And I think that's all I wanted to do in the colors. The whites in the background are fine. The whites in the plate are fine. I just wanted this to be popping at you a lot more than what it is. So we're going to come up here to another one that I've got is the AI Clear. So I'm tending to use this a lot more on my interior shots just because it just does a nice job with adding in a little bit more structure and a little bit more information to your picture. And I'll show you before and after once this finishes. All right, so here is before and after, and you can see the subtle differences. Look at the glassware and the silver holding container for the glassware, with it looks like salt and pepper shakers or vinegar and oil shakers right there. You can see a big difference in what this AI Clear is doing for your photograph. Okay, so then we're going to go into make this fit. You can see it here. I'll do a before after again. Right there. What a difference. That's a nice tool. So we're going to go into details, which is typical of what I would do on an interior shot. Let that come up. And again, it's not so much being used outdoors for the details. And I like to get the preset if I can get it to come up. We're having a little technical challenge here, Heath. I push the button and there we go. Subtle sharp. Perfect. And now I'm going to have one last one where I really want you to see this. And how do I do that? There it is. What a difference. Turn that on. And when it refreshes, and then turn it back off. There we go. I think the vignette makes a big difference here. To emphasize the center portion here in that milk container or water container, if you will, and it really balances the picture out a little bit better. At least in my mind, this is a wall hanger at this point, I would think. So any questions on what we've done so far, Heath?
Some people have said they're noticing the image is a little bit soft when they're looking at it in the viewer. I'm kind of seeing that as well. I'm wondering if you're seeing that or if it's just an artifact of the resolution of the display. Like, are you choosing to make these images a little softer out of a stylistic choice?
No, not at all. And it might be just a display malfunction or issue.
Yeah,
I'm seeing very sharp images on my screen.
I'm thinking it's likely because your screen's a little higher resolution, and this is only the presentation can only go up to 1080. It won't present any higher than that, so that's probably why it's
Uh,
looking a little. Yeah.
yeah, mine is significantly higher than that. I've got a 4K monitor here, so it's exceptionally sharp here. I treated myself a little while ago to a new monitor. So we'll go on to the next one. But if there's no questions, we'll move on. And this one, we're going to go back and forth between Studio and out to a plugin to show you that you can add new features in. And this is, again, down at Cape Cod. I just happened to be there on a foggy morning, and these two folks just ran on by me, and I grabbed them. So we're going to make some adjustments here, but then we're going to save this to a layer that we'll use as a blend layer. So we're going to do a little bit of HSL here first. And again, like I said, there's no workflow that says you have to use one versus the other first or last, but if you know you have a color cast in there, you can eliminate it first. So, being on the beach and having fog, I know that there's blue. So I'm going to take a little bit of that saturation down and try to return that brightness up. It's just the nature of the beast that you have that when you're at the ocean. And I know that I've got some right here, a little saturation in the sand. I'm going to turn that up a little bit, get some contrast in there. There we go. That's the one I wanted, which was the guy's shirt. I want it to stand out. And I can't tell what the other runner's shirt color is, and it's not showing up here on the HSL so much. It's blending in. A little red. But I'm going to turn the brightness up. There we go. So now I've got a little bit more definition between these two joggers that we're running by. And we'll go into make a little bit of an S curve. And if people don't know what the S curve does, it adds a little bit of contrast. And you can use curves are your friend, really are. They have been mine for years. And you can make some significant changes just using some more points here and drag it up and down. We'll refresh this, and I encourage people to use curves as much as possible. We'll go up with the shoulder and bring the toe down just a little bit, so we have a little bit more contrast in there. And this is what I typically use curves for, is to add a little bit of contrast to an image where it's needed. So I'm going to press save at this point, and I'm going to name it to a ridge here. As you know, you can rename items here. And I'll type that in, ORIG. It's okay. So now it's called a ridge. And we will take this out, go to the one I just copied. And now we're going to go to the plugin world. There we go. It switched.
Yeah, because you're running GoToWebinar, there's a bit of a delay, so we're seeing a little bit of a lag.
Yep.
That's why you're getting kind of the lag while you're working with it. GoToWebinar, and when we're presenting, it takes up a lot of system space. So.
Okay. So I like to go back and forth between the plugin world and Studio. Some things that are available in plugins, not available in Studio, and vice versa. And one of my favorite is this foggy look. Again, I've used this before in one of the other images, but this one really lent itself to having fog in here. And we're going to increase the size, just emphasizing what was already there. I'm not going to change the angle, maybe a little bit less on the diffusion. There we go. So we're just going to press OK here because I want to come back into Studio, and eventually this will switch. You can see the progress bar on the top. So here, I'm going to add another image, and we're going to go back to the original, which I renamed so it's easy to find. Come on. Sorry, this is the one I just created with the fog, and I want to, sometimes that happens when you trying to drag the other image back in. It switches on you, Heath. Oh, gosh. Here we go. And then again, it's my mouse sometimes too.
I think the original is the very, very beginning of your thumb strip, right?
That's
there.
what I'm looking for. That's what I thought it was. And if I touch the wrong thing, it changes pictures of me. Bear with me. Spent a lot of time at Cape Cod this year. Those 3 people marching to their death out there in the water.
You don't like surfing.
Oh, I did it as a kid, but now that I'm an adult, I've smartened up.
So you're looking for the image that you just finished processing, or the one that you started with originally?
The one I started with originally. And
Okay. So if you roll all the way back to the very beginning.
That's what I was trying to do, and it kept grabbing things and dumping them on me.
Okay. Keep on going. It should be at the very left right there. Is that the right one?
It'll do.
Okay. Just drag it and drop it in the adjustment panel.
Yep. It'll do. And then we'll put this in the background. Too much, so I'm going to change the opacity down a whole lot so I have a blend through. And it's actually just like using a mask or creating a mask, where I've got the original layer and I've put it into the background and I'm blending through both images, or this image is into the enhanced image, if you will. So I'm getting a lot of the original look where I've added the contrast into the new picture. So it's kind of a hybrid of both images into one. Any questions on this process and procedure and why you do it? Okay, I got one more in my bag of tricks here that I'm ready for. Undo this, and we'll bring this one in. And I happen to be fortunate enough to go out to the Redwood Forest last year, and just love that place. And this was and again, I did this in Photoshop because this was a focus stack and a bracketed photo. So I did this ahead of time, and I created the one image as a result. So we're going to make some changes here. I don't like having to go out to Photoshop, but with focus stacking, kind of forced to. So we're going to basic here. Not too many adjustments. Exposure is pretty good. I'm going to bring a little bit of clarity in here, and I'm going to also bring out the shadows just a little bit. I think I may want to go to black point and see if this helps me down here. Set the black point. Okay. White point, I'm going to try and see if that helps. We'll bring the white point here. A little too much. We'll bring it back. And I like that right there. And one of the things I'm trying to bring out is here. And you'll see this as I move through this. There's a nice reflection from these yellow and green gold of the trees with the light reflection back onto this one tree here and on some of the tip tops of some of these other fauna in the woods here. So next would be to HSL. I'm looking for the color cast, and we've got a little bit of blue in there. I'm going to take that down. This will take some of that haze out, bring that lightness up. And I don't want to get rid of this or this. It's the color of the area. Maybe here, bring it up just a little bit on the green lightness and just a little bit there. Green has a little bit of yellow in it. So bring that up just a little bit unsaturated. Let me show you where we're at from before, start and finish. And you can see that it's very, very subtle at this point. Not a lot of dramatic changes here. So we're going to go into precision contrast. Again, my favorite, right around there, and I'll go about halfway on the low. So it's about a 2-to-1 ratio. Put this at high. I'm going to try the midtones and see if they help bring that up a little bit. And it did. Got a little bit more light here, but not affecting it too much. And I'm starting to see a little bit more of the reflection through here that I'm looking for. And we're going to make one more S-curve. And you'll see this in a lot of my my work. The S-curve plays an important part. It does add the dramatic contrast where I'm looking for it, and not over the top. Right about there. And I'll show you the before and after as I go through these. Before it was a little flat and not flat now. So this will be one of the times that I will use edges outside because I've got a lot of structure in that bark. And we'll turn that down. And there's no clouds in the sky, so it's not going to affect anything that's in the sky for these edges. So it's something you want to be careful of. If you use the edges outdoors and you're emphasizing some of the trees or structures of the buildings outside, you may want to mask out the clouds because it'll end up looking fake. So it's easy to do with here and just mask out what you want. And I'll show you, just mask this. That's it. So everything that's light is fine. Everything that's white is coming through. Everything black is not. And you can see the sky is not. And that's enough of a mask there, and it's not affecting it too much. Still getting the effect I'm looking for. So one last thing, or not the last, but one last thing, a little bit of dehaze, and I'm going to bring this over significant because there's a lot of haze in that sky up there still. There was a little bit of burn through. Okay, I didn't want to go too far. You see, it brought back a lot of the structure that was in through here, and through here, and then through here. And I'm going to add one last thing, another tone. Since I made this a little bit darker, I'm going to drag that right from the middle until I like what I see. And that's too much, right about there. Yep. And I got a nice even balance.
If you guys want to follow Joe, his website is joereardonphotography.com. You can always follow him at Facebook as well at facebook.com/Joe Reardon Photography. I know there were a ton of questions. I don't know how Rose does this. Her fingers fly like the wind. But any questions that we weren't able to get to, you can always message us. It'll go directly to our support team at webinars@topazlabs.com. And you can sign up for upcoming webinars. We've got Harold Davis, I think, is coming with us next week. You can sign up for his webinar at topazlabs.com/webinars. Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know you blow through a lot, and we've got a lot of great examples. If you guys are feeling like he was going too fast for you, you want to review something, don't worry. I'll be sending a follow-up email in about an hour to 2 hours that'll have a link to the recording of this entire webinar for you to watch. So you got plenty to review there. And man, I look forward to seeing you again. It's been a while, so it's good to have you back.
Yep, I had a blast. Look forward to the next one.
Cool. Thanks for
Thank
coming,
you.
everybody. We'll see you later.